All right. Everything's plugged in. Everything's turned on. I believe in my heart of hearts that you can hear me. I believe that you can see me. And I believe that we're all sitting here on Saturday night, November 27, 2021, a banner day in University of Pittsburgh football history, because your Pitt Panthers beat Syracuse today. And in doing so, they arrived at 10 wins in the regular season for the first time in 40 years. As you've no doubt heard, you know that. You know that Pitt is 10-2. You know that Pitt beat Syracuse today. You know that Pitt is the ACC Coastal Division champion. You know Pitt is going to the ACC championship game. You know Pitt has a realistic shot at going to the Peach Bowl. You know Pitt has a realistic shot at winning 12 damn games. You know all these things already. You didn't tune in here to be informed about the outcome today or about what stands before this Pitt team or what they've accomplished thus far this season. You didn't tune in for those things. You tuned in to talk about this game. You tuned in to talk about this season. You tuned in to talk about what lies ahead for these Panthers. But as I sit here, we're waiting for people to roll in, waiting for people to come into the post-game chat, and we'll let everybody drift in. And you want to get your comments and questions posted, you go ahead, and we'll certainly get to it. We'll get to as many as we can, as many as we want to tonight. If you want to be a super chatter, you can make sure your comments and questions get read and responded to within reason. As I sit here tonight, looking at the game, I got my notebook with all the plays from the Syracuse game. These road games, I tend to only have about 2 sheets of paper that I cover the games on. Home games tend to be about 6 or 7 yellow pad pages. But as I sit here tonight and I'm thinking about the game, and I'm thinking about Kenny Pickett throwing a bunch of touchdown passes again, and Jordan Addison doing his thing, and the tight ends, and how good the defense was after the first drive. And I didn't even think they were all that bad on the first drive, despite giving up a rather smooth touchdown march for Syracuse. We'll talk about all those things, and I'm thinking about all those things. But what I keep coming back to, what I keep flashing back on right now, is some of the other times we've gotten together this season after games to talk about Pitt, and really all of them. The previous 10 of these, because we didn't do one after the North Carolina game. So 11 games prior to tonight, we got together for 10 times to do these post-game shows, and there was always a different vibe. There was always a different mood. There was always a different this or always a different that. And some people were happy and some people were angry, and certainly after some of the losses, and there were only 2 of them, people were mostly angry, almost all angry. And I haven't gone back because I just don't do this. It's product of pure insecurity, but I almost want to go back and rewatch the post-game show we did after Western Michigan. Not to dunk on anybody, not to call receipts or freezing cold takes or anything like that, because I'm sure I said I had some reactions to that game just like everybody did. But I want to go back and watch that and see what we were thinking. And was there anyone who came out of the game and said, this team, they had a rough loss, they're going to win 10. They're going to win 8 out of their final 9 and go 10-2 this season? I don't think anybody was saying that. And again, this isn't to dunk on anything. This isn't receipts. It's just, I guess the thing that I can't stop thinking about is just how this season has progressed. You beat UMass, who cares? You go to Tennessee and you get a really encouraging win. You come home and you lose to Western Michigan and you say, son of a, gee, are they really going to do this again? Is that how this season is going to be? Is this going to be another friggin' 7-5 season? Is this going to be another 8-4, maybe 8-4, and they lose the bowl game and go 8-5? Or they finish the regular season 7-5, so they get a lousy bowl game and win it to go 8-5? Is that what this is going to be? Is this just going to be rinse and repeat over and over and over again until somebody in some position of power says we're sick of winning only 8 games every year? And I think I had that feeling too. I think I had that thought. Even though I mean, I sat here and I talked about how the defense is correctable and these issues are correctable and it was bad tackling and poor execution and all the bad scheme and they can fix all those things. I still was thinking the same thing. They're like, look, man, if you're going to screw it up against Western Michigan, you're going to screw it up at least 3 more times in the regular season, maybe 4 more times. You might screw it up 3 more times in the regular season and have another team that's just flat out better than you. Probably Clemson or somebody like that. And you're going to lose 5 games again. And that's just what this is going to be. And they go to the next week and they crush New Hampshire, as they should. And I think we're starting to believe that this offense is real. We're starting to think, okay, this, Kenny Pickett, he's legit. You know what I mean? He's really, he can play. And this might be for real. And Jordan Addison, Lucas Kroll, and these guys they're going to keep rolling this season. Just because they were able to go out there and just crush New Hampshire the way they did. So then they go to Georgia Tech, and they come out with a 30-point victory on the road against a conference opponent. And Georgia Tech stinks. They won 3 friggin' games this year. And I think even though we didn't know they would only win 3 games at the time, I think we knew when Pitt went down there that they weren't very good. We knew that wasn't a good Georgia Tech team, and Pitt should beat them up. But the way they did it, they scored 52 points. They beat them by 30. One of the biggest wins, by point margin in Pitt's history in the conference. Say, all right. Western Michigan's not too far in the rear view, but it's fading a little bit. And then they get the game at Virginia Tech. People in the message were calling it a tipping point game. And yeah, there was a lot riding on that game. Virginia Tech, I don't think we thought it was the best. They were the best team on the schedule. I don't think we thought that Virginia Tech was going to be that team that, I think at that time, I don't think we would have put them in the top 3 or 4 most difficult teams or most talented teams or most challenging opponents on the schedule. But going there, where Kenny Pickett had never won, he was 0-1 as a starter, and he played significantly in that 2017 game. It's a tough place to play. He said it himself. It was the loudest place he's ever played. And so you thought going down to that game, this is going to be a real challenge. If they can get out of this, now they're going to have a shot. You know what I mean? They'll be 5-1. They're going to climb into the rankings. They're going to be set up for a big game against Clemson. But they got to take care of business against Virginia Tech. Can they do it? And they just crushed Virginia Tech. And the final score doesn't end up as a 30-point blowout or 40-point blowout. But they also had like an 11.5-minute drive in the fourth quarter. They only stopped scoring because they chose to stop scoring, which is almost as backbreaking as scoring a touchdown. And so the Clemson game comes, and they go out and they win it, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't they weren't miles ahead of Clemson, but they were the better team. And they made more plays, and they made bigger plays. And yeah, Clemson dropped passes. But you know what? The teams that win are the teams that make plays. And the teams that emerge as the best teams in the country, the teams that are the best teams, are the ones that make plays. And Pitt wasn't one of those best teams last year or the year before because they didn't make those plays. And well, guess what? Clemson wasn't the better team that day at Heinz Field because they didn't make the plays. Their linebacker wasn't able to get his hands on a poorly timed shovel pass and pick it off and go the other way for 50 yards. Their running backs and receivers and tight ends caught the ball when they had an opportunity to make a play. 27-17 doesn't go down as a big blowout, but Pitt was the better team on the field that day. And then you get Miami. And I didn't come out of the Miami game feeling the way I did coming out of the Western Michigan game. Western Michigan game is early in the season, and you're thinking to yourself, you're like I said, here we go. Another 5-loss season. Is this really what it's going to be again? But they lose Miami, and that didn't eliminate all the goodwill they had built up over the first 7 games. Knowing that they had Duke, Carolina, Virginia, and Syracuse. 2 really challenging opponents and 2 tomato cans that they shouldn't have a lot of trouble with. But it was disheartening. It was disappointing. It was disappointing because they weren't really that far off from beating Miami. I mean, it wasn't a dominating loss. They gave up like 2 plays in the first quarter, and then Kenny Pickett made 2 really bad interceptions. And I still maintain that if he only makes 1 of those bad interceptions, they win the game. And that doesn't even get into the safety situation and all that. And so I expected them to bounce back, and they did. They went down to Duke. And they made all of you very nervous and very concerned in the first quarter when Duke was leading 12-7, and then they kicked the crap out of Duke. And then they get the Thursday night game against Carolina on a short rest. And it takes overtime, but they win. And then it comes into last week. And you get last week's game against Virginia, and you've got everything on the line, and the Coastal Division's on the line. And I remember that there was actually a point in that game, late in the game, Virginia's driving, and it looks like this thing is slipping away from Pitt. And I start thinking about what I'm going to talk about on the postgame show. I start thinking about what I'm going to talk about on this Panther-Lair postgame. And I start thinking about how I'm going to rip them. I'm going to bash them because they had the really good teams. The great teams. And I'm not saying Pitt is a great team, but I'm saying the teams that fall into that category above good, whether you want to say really good or great or elite, where all those different tiers that are above just good, right? I mean, you average, good. Those teams that fit into the tiers above take advantage when the opportunity presents itself. When they have an opportunity to do something, they go out and they do it. And there were moments in that game against Virginia where I looked at it and I said, they're not going to do it. They're going to fall short. They're going to fail. And almost start questioning, like, why did anyone even believe that this team would pull it off? I almost fell into, that mentality that I give Pitt fans such a hard time for, where, that sort of, doom is always right around the corner and the other shoe is always going to drop. And I mean, you see it on Twitter. Hell, we saw it tonight. Did you read Twitter during the first quarter of this game against Syracuse? I mean, Pitt fans, man, this was the 12th game of a season. The Pitt came into this game at 9-2, ranked in the top 20, with a spot in the ACC championship game locked up, and probably going to be the favorite in that game. And Pitt fans, I mean, there was a post on the message board, and it might have been a joke, but they wanted to fire everybody after the first quarter. But I had those thoughts. Not the thoughts about firing anybody, but I had those thoughts of, how did anyone believe in this team at points when it looked like they were going to blow it against Virginia? But they didn't blow it against Virginia. They rallied. They made the plays they needed to make. Got the touchdowns on offense. Got the stops on defense. And they came into tonight. Game at Syracuse, tough place to play. They haven't won a game there by more than a score since 2011, I want to say. No, 2010, actually. 2011 game was at Heinz Field. 2010, there was this brief little stretch of like 3 games, Rutgers and Syracuse and Louisville, where Pitt played really well. It was like the highlight of that season and pretty much the last high watermark for Dave Wannstedt, unless you want to count that game at Cincinnati in the season finale when the Bearcat got arrested, which was a high watermark on a lot of levels. We could probably do a whole podcast just about that game and Pitt's adventures in Cincinnati. But it's been since 2010 since Pitt won a game at the Dome by more than one score. 2012 they just lost. 2013 they won by a point. 2015 they win on a game-winning field goal after Pat Narduzzi goes for it on a fake punt his first year at Pitt. 2017 they lost, and then 2019 they won by a touchdown, I think. They were up by more, but Syracuse ended up clawing back into it. So it's always been a tough place to play. And it looked like it early on. But there was something for this team to play for today. And it wasn't a tangible goal like last week. It wasn't clinching a division. Or there was no championship. You're not going to get a trophy for beating Syracuse tonight. You're not going to get a trophy for winning 10 games for the first time in 40 years. But by God almighty, man, it means something. It really does mean something. And it doesn't mean more than any of the goals that are still in front of them. There's two goals still in front of them. The ACC title and a New Year's Six bowl game. Win. I'm not going to say that making New Year's Six bowl is one of the goals, because if you win the ACC championship, you are going to a New Year's Six bowl. So that's just part of it. There's 2 goals left. One is win the ACC championship. One is win a New Year's Six bowl. And you'll get a trophy for each of those accomplishments. You're not going to get a trophy for winning 10 games for the first time in 40 years, 10 games in the regular season for the first time in 40 years. But it means something, though. It means something. Pitt fans for so long have said, when do we get that sort of magical season? Even, I feel like they always point to Kansas. Say, even Kansas has had a 10-win season at some point in there. When do we get to have that season? Brother, this is it. Like you're in the middle of it now. And if your thoughts start wandering to, geez, if we could have just beat Michigan or Western Michigan, or geez, if we could have just beat Miami. Imagine being 12-0. Yeah, imagine being 12-0. Imagine being 3-9. Imagine being 7-5. Imagine being 1-11. Imagine whatever record you want. There's one record right now, and it's 10-2. Pitt is 10-2. Who had Pitt at 10-2 prior to this season? I predicted 9-3, and I was on the more optimistic end of things. 10-2. And they beat Syracuse without looking like they really were trying all that hard. And I don't think they were lackadaisical. I don't think they were hungover from winning the Coastal. I don't think they were overlooking Syracuse. But it didn't look like they were trying all that hard. But they got the win pretty comfortably after the first quarter. And now they'll go to Charlotte to take on Wake Forest in the ACC championship game. And there's going to be a lot to break down there. We'll have plenty to discuss for sure. All right, we got a lot of comments already. We got super chatters, and I want to jump right into those. The Whiskey Coach, one of our first super chatters, has been a Pitt fan since 2001 when I transferred in as a senior baseball player. Not particularly pretty tonight, but we'll take it. Couldn't be happier to see 10-2. See you all in Charlotte. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's a 31-14 win. They outgained the opponent. They outgained Syracuse by almost 100 yards. They held Syracuse's number 8 rushing attack in the country to a net gain of 25 yards. Sean Tucker, one of the best running backs, probably the best running back in the ACC, one of the best running backs in the country, 13 carries for 29 yards. Kenny Pickett, sort of a pedestrian, 209 yards, but with 4 touchdowns. Running game, I think was better than the numbers would indicate. 34 carries for 125. That includes the sacks. Kenny Pickett saying Kenny Pickett was only sacked once for 11 yards. I guess because the face mask overturned one of those. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. And even when Syracuse went down the field on the first drive, right, and just marched down. It was funny because, and I was texting with friends and I'm reading Twitter and people were like a lot of people were very concerned about the fact that Syracuse was able to go 75 yards on 14 plays. And I looked at it and I just kept thinking, you look at their plays, Syracuse they converted a 3rd and 1 with a quarterback run. They converted a 3rd and 11. No, they didn't convert that 3rd and 11. They got stopped after 9 yards and converted a 4th and 2 on another quarterback run. And then they scored a touchdown, a touchdown pass. But it took 14 plays to get there. And I just felt like Pitt's defense, they had one really bad missed tackle on like the second play of the game. They gave up a bunch of yards. But overall, I didn't feel like the defense played that poorly on the first drive. And I think Syracuse tried to do a lot of different things. And I felt like Pitt's defense was just sort of getting a feel for it. And they responded. I mean, because after that drive, Syracuse goes 4 plays for 2 yards, 4 plays for 12 yards, 3 plays for 3 yards, 2 plays for 20 yards that ends in a fumble, 3 plays for -9, 3 plays for 4. End at a half, and then they go 3 plays for 3 before they finally score another touchdown in the third quarter. Late in the third quarter. And then they go 3 and out in the first drive of the fourth quarter. So, I mean, I kind of felt like Pitt's defense was going to get Syracuse's offense under control. And then Pitt's offense, I know, yeah, they had their struggles at the beginning, right? They went 4 and out, turnover on downs, and then 3 and out and 3 and out on their first 3 drives, and then touchdown. And I felt like that was going to break through as well. I felt like it was just going to be a matter of time before Pitt's offense would break through, just like it would be a matter of time. I didn't think Syracuse's offense was going to be able to sustain the success that they had on the first drive, and that ended up being the case. And I didn't think that Pitt's offense was going to struggle the way they did on the first few drives, and that ended up being the case. Again, this is maybe the most low-effort 17-point win that we've seen in a long time. And it felt like they were ahead by more than 17, because they were ahead by more than 17 for most of this game. Mr. Balloon Hands is a super chatter. He says, if Alabama loses and Pitt wins while scoring a lot on Saturday, what are Kenny Pickett's Heisman chances? Very few candidates play next week. So the Heisman voting, I think the votes are due on the 6th. All right, so that's 2 days after the conference title games. If the voters haven't submitted their ballots by then, if the voters are willing to wait and watch, and see what happens in the conference championship games, Georgia, Alabama in the afternoon, Pitt, Wake Forest at night. Those are the two games that are going to feature some of the Heisman finalists. Really, I think the guys that they really talk about, those guys will be featured. If I hope the voters wait and watch those games. See what Bryce Young does. See what Kenny Pickett does. And just kind of scrolling through the schedule here, the ACC title game is going head-to-head with the Big Ten title game. All right? So that's... Oh, and the Pac-12 also. So they're going to have some options on what they want to watch. If you want to watch explosiveness, if you want to watch big plays and lots of yards and lots of touchdowns, Pitt Wake Forest is your huckleberry. That's the one you want to turn on. Between Kenny Pickett and Sam Hartman, these passing games, just the offensive attacks, and the fact that neither teams, both teams' defenses are susceptible, I would say, to good offensive attacks. That's the game you're going to watch. Iowa, Michigan is going to be, I don't know. Oregon, Utah, who knows? Maybe you take the uniqueness of actually getting a Pac-12 game at 8 o'clock as opposed to like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. But there are going to be some eyes on Kenny Pickett. And there are going to be some eyes on Jordan Addison, although the Biletnikoff Award voting ends, I think, this Wednesday. I think it's on the 1st. There are going to be eyes out there. And I think Kenny Pickett's going to have a great opportunity, both in terms of exposure, the stage that he's on, and in terms of the defense he's going to be playing against and what he should be able to do against that defense. He's going to have a great opportunity to showcase himself and maybe move himself up and earn a few extra votes. Biz is a super chatter. He says, been listening to you for a few years. This was a great season. I'm glad we got it together. Hey, it's funny. We did a few of these post-game live streams last year, as I recall. I don't think we did one after every game. I think we just did one here and there. I think Notre Dame game was one we did. I forget what else we did. Maybe the Georgia Tech, because we realized we were having a lot of fun with it. But I'm glad we started doing it every week this year, after every game this season, because it's given us an opportunity to sit down and sort of digest these games together. It's kind of like the Kenny Pickett show. Just got really lucky that this was the year we did a project like that, and we were able to do that, and we were able to sort of go on this journey through this season with Kenny. And you got, I think, unique insight into Kenny, into his process, and how he's approached everything throughout this season that you wouldn't have gotten. If he was just doing his regular weekly media opportunities where he talks for 6 or 8 minutes or something like that, I don't think you would have gotten the kind of insight that we got on the Kenny Pickett show. I hope you've gotten a chance to check that out on our YouTube channel every week. We don't have many episodes left, but this past week was pretty fun, where we had Kenny and Jordan Addison together on the show. Where else are you going to find a Heisman Trophy candidate? Where else are you going to find a Maxwell Award finalist and a Biletnikoff Trophy finalist on the same show? Not many places, I don't think. Sean McHugh says, was the slow start due to trying not to show anything for Wake Forest, or did it seem like the Syracuse defense really threw some good looks at them? Well, Syracuse's defense is pretty solid. They're a pretty good defense. I think they rank in the top 30 in scoring and total defense. They're top 10 nationally in sacks. And they've just always been a tough defense for Pitt. I know, obviously, the 76-61 game stands out as a bit of an exception. But I mean, overall, Pitt hasn't had a ton of high-scoring games in the last decade against Syracuse, especially games that are played at the Carrier Dome. It's always been a tough defense for Pitt, and maybe it's a different, the 3-3-5 look or whatever it is. They've just done a good job defending Pitt in the past, and I think that's what was happening early on. I also think that this Pitt offense has been slow to get going. It's almost every game this season. They've not gotten off to a hot start, very often. And I think part of it is that they're just sort of figuring out what a defense is doing, Excuse me. And so I think they almost sort of come out and do a couple things just to test out the defense. I think their intention is to score. They want to move the ball and accomplish their goals. But I think one of their goals early in the game is let's just see what the defense is doing, because you watch Pitt and as their offense struggles early in a game, which again, like I say, happens almost every week. As their offense struggles early in a game, I never see any panic. There never seems to be any concern. I think Kenny Pickett's very cool about it. I think Mark Whipple's very cool about it. Pat Narduzzi might be freaking out. But those guys just are very comfortable. Okay, so we saw they're doing this and they're doing this. All right, well, let's do this and let's do this. And that's why almost every week, not almost every week, that's why every week the offense has eventually broken through. When they get off to these slow starts, they break through. And even in the losses, even in, whether it was Miami and Western Michigan, they still, even if they got off to a slow start, and I think they actually scored on their first drive against Miami. But even if they got off to a slow start, once they got a read on what a defense was doing, they got they sort of formed their plan on how to attack. And I think you come into every game with a game plan, and you come in looking to do this and looking to do that, and you have a game plan, right? You have a game plan, but you have to adjust that game plan as the game goes on, which you see what the opponents are doing. And I think to some extent, Pitt comes out in first drive, couple drives, and I think they did it tonight. Just get a feel, see what Syracuse is doing. Okay, they're doing this. All right. Well, then around the fifth drive, they're able to march. Well, they go 45 yards after a fumble recovery. Oh no, they scored on their fourth drive. I'm sorry, 75 yards, and they score a touchdown. And then they go 45 yards and score another one, and never really look back. I mean, they didn't score a touchdown on every drive after that, but they were pretty much in control, and the offense was able to move the ball as they wanted, pretty much the rest of the way. So, they had a slow start. I don't think they were trying to hide anything from Wake Forest, because there's 11 games on tape now. They weren't trying to. They weren't trying to hide anything against Virginia, because they needed to win the Coastal Division title, and so that game's on tape. So I don't think there was anything they were going to show against Syracuse that Wake Forest wouldn't have seen in the first 11 games that Pitt played this season. I think they're past the point of needing to hide things. What you do is out there. It's on tape. Paul Moore is the super chatter. He says, thanks for your coverage in good times and in bad. Do you think Pat Narduzzi offers Dino Babers a position on the staff if Syracuse and Babers go separate ways? I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what Dino Babers would want to do. I mean, would he... if you parted ways with somebody like Andre Powell, would Dino Babers want to go from being head coach to being a running backs coach? My guess is he would want to either be, go to a coordinator's job if he can't find another head coaching job, or go to somewhere like Alabama and be, an analyst or something like that, one of these positions that eventually works you up into where you really want to be. It would be my guess. But I think Dino Babers is a good... I think Dino Babers is a good coach. I think he's a good offensive coach. I think he's in a difficult situation with Syracuse, because it's a hard place to win. Biz says, not to jump ahead, does Pitt go for a transfer quarterback, or is the future starter already on the roster? I think they're looking. I think they'll have to look. In 2021, heading into the 2022 college football season, I think it's coaching malpractice if you don't look for a starter, for a transfer. I think you have to Like, you have to look. And look and see what's in the market, what's in the portal, and see what you can find. Because there might be better options out there than what you have. And you can like your options, but you might find better options out there. And so I'm sure Pitt will explore it. Jordan Lowe is a super chatter. He says, the game was like a fever dream due to the broadcast, but did they try to get the ball out of Kenny Pickett's hands ASAP to keep his shirt clean? That would explain the screens. Yeah, I think they did. And like I said, Jordan, Syracuse was number 9 in the country coming into this game in sacks. Okay, they get after the quarterback really well. And your number one job today, maybe even more important than winning, maybe not more important than winning, but really high on the priority list, was keeping Kenny Pickett healthy. You could not have him get hit very much in this game. You could absolutely not come out of this game with him injured in any way from something that happened tonight. You couldn't. You have to have him as close to 100% as possible for the Wake Forest game. So yeah, with all the pressure that Syracuse brings, with all the pressure they get on quarterbacks, with all the sacks they've gotten this season, I do think they wanted to get the ball out of Pickett's hands quickly. I think that's why they had so many screens early in the game, like you mentioned. I think that's why they were going to that so much, because they wanted to get rid of the ball, and they didn't take that many shots downfield, partially because Syracuse gets after the quarterback and doesn't give you a lot of time to do things like that, and partially because I don't think they really even wanted Pickett standing back in the pocket to take those passes. I don't think that was the game plan. And I think, for good reason. Now, I mean, some of those screens, you need your receivers to block a little better, because those plays aren't really going to work, although the screen, that inside screen that they ran to, a little slip screen they ran to Rodney Hammond for the touchdown was a pretty good one. But that's, with the receiver screens, those bubbles and stuff, you need better blocking, and I think, part of that was due to what this, sort of the situation of this game and trying to preserve Kenny Pickett. Let's see. Josh Grubbs is in the chat. He says, what have you heard about an extension? You have to figure one is being negotiated. I hope they remain prudent about it. Forget the money. They just can't guarantee the whole thing. As far as Narduzzi and an extension goes, to be honest with you, I don't think there's any movement on that right now. I don't. I think after the season, those discussions will be had. After the season, probably something will be done. Because, you have this kind of season coming up a couple of years away from the end of your contract, you extend the guy. But I don't think anything's happening right now. I don't, sort of famously, Narduzzi doesn't even have an agent. He works with some lawyers to make sure all the contract language is, legal, I guess. But he doesn't even use an agent. So his agent's not, he doesn't have an agent who's sitting back there, first of all, trying to plant things in the media to get, to sort of push Heather Lyke and Pitt to give even more money. And there's no agent that's sitting there negotiating with Pitt and Heather Lyke right now. I just don't think that's happening. I think it's something that'll probably happen in the offseason, but I don't think that's because Pat Narduzzi's involved with, when those negotiations happen, he's involved with it. And right now, his priority is just on the team. I don't think there's movement there. I don't think there's movement afoot. There will be, I think, but there's not right now. All right, so many comments and questions. I want to make sure we get to as many as we can. But if you want to make sure that you can get your comment read and your questions answered, you can always be a super chatter. Click that $ down at the bottom and support the podcast. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's see here. DC3 says, H2P 10-2 feels great. Honestly, Chris, do you think that the ACC purposely set up that awful broadcast, or do you think they just can't get anyone to willingly travel to Syracuse? So we've seen, broadcasting games remotely is fairly common. Certainly with, we've seen it on a bunch of basketball games. Home games and road games. We've seen the remote broadcasts where the announcers, the broadcasters are not in the stadium. You would like to think for the Coastal Division champ, playing its regular season finale, going for 10 wins with a Heisman Trophy candidate and a Maxwell Award finalist and a Unitas Award finalist and Davey O'Brien Award finalist and Biletnikoff Trophy finalist, with a team that's really one of your premier programs right now. You would like to think the conference would try to get a little better production. But ultimately, I would assume ESPN makes those decisions on where they're going to send people and when they're going to, it's not about getting anyone to be willing to travel to Syracuse. I think if ESPN tells its announcers you are going to Syracuse, those guys will go to Syracuse. They didn't make that call today. And it was, and those guys, and I don't mean to criticize those guys, they did the best they could in a difficult situation. Look, there was a lot that was wrong with that broadcast. The down and distance was chronically inaccurate, what they put on the screen. There were times where, they had the yellow first down line, and I think that was generally pretty accurate. But the line of scrimmage marker, that like black line they put, would be like a yard behind where the ball clearly was. And it wasn't even like the center moved the ball forward. You look at the ref standing on the sideline, and their forward foot is on the 32, and this black line is back on the 31. As I showed you, I write a lot of notes during games, and it's really frustrating when you look at the screen and you hear the announcer say something, and you can't really rely on what you're seeing or what you're hearing because they're just giving you inaccurate information. And I don't fault those guys who called the game. They're watching TV just like we are, and that's, they might have a different feed that they're watching, but that's a challenging thing to ask them to do. And so I don't really fault them all that much. It was just a poor production overall. And I don't think they did it on purpose to screw Pitt. I think it was just like, well, we want this game here, we want that game there, and well, Pitt, Syracuse, you end up on the ACC network. Maybe Pitt's drive for 10 wins for the first time in 40 years, maybe they thought, well, this is a game that'll mean a lot to Pitt fans. We'll put it on the ACC network where none of them can get it, and hopefully they'll all complain to Comcast to try and help get that deal done or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if that was the thinking. It was pretty... It wasn't good. It was pretty rough. And the problem is, when you go to Syracuse, they have like this in-house PA announcer, the guy who talks, it's a Syracuse first down and all that stuff. And he is, if I recall from being up there 2 years ago, and I've been up there like 7 times to cover a game, he's just chronically wrong about things. He'll say 3rd and 4 and it's 2nd and 8 or something like that. It's just way off the mark, and it's totally disorienting. And I felt like I was getting the experience again by watching the game on this broadcast. Rob H. says, "Hi, Chris. It is me. I predicted 10-2 at the beginning of the season. I was not afraid to dare to be great." Hey, Rob. Good work, man. Good work on predicting 10. That's good stuff. Rollo Browntown Tony. Man, you just need an easier name. How about just Rollo? Can you just go by Rollo? Rollo Browntown Tony says he finally joined Panther-Lair thanks to that Black Friday deal. Yeah, we actually have a special right now. Just a quick little plug here. Promo goes... I don't want to tell you wrong, but we're doing a Black Friday special right now for new annual subscriptions. You can get it your first year $20.21, which is a huge savings off the regular price of an annual subscription. Use the promo code RIVALS2021, RIVALS 2021, RIVALS 2021. No spaces or anything in there. Just one word, RIVALS 2021. You sign up for an annual subscription. Your first year is $20.21. That's a huge discount. I actually, as I'm reading this, I don't feel comfortable telling you about that deal because that's way too cheap for the product that we offer. For a whole year, $20.21. That's insane. I can't believe we're actually offering this. But you should take advantage of it now because we are doing it. It's our Black Friday sale. I think it's through the weekend into Cyber Monday. I'll check the date on when it ends, but I mean, just go do it now at Panther-Lair.com and get the best Pitt coverage, the most comprehensive Pitt sports news on the internet, and the best online community of Pitt fans. It's like this thing we do here, every Wednesday night and then after every game. It's like that, except on the message boards, it's 24 hours a day of these conversations. So go check that out. Panther-Lair.com. Use that promo code RIVALS2021 when you sign up for an annual subscription. Get a great deal there. Scott Eisenberg says, kudos to the team for sleepwalking through this game and still covering. Did that? Oh, yeah, they did cover. That's right. Hey, what do they say? Good teams win, great teams cover, right? Josh Newark says, I too predicted 10 wins. Full disclosure, I've said 10 wins probably every year since 1997. That's great. Let's see here. Sports World PA says, the postgame show The Huddle on the ACC network called out Pitt and Wake Forest fan bases and said the ACC gets a bad rap for fans not showing up. Said we need to sell out the game for the ACC. That would be good. I mean, you know, I don't know what kind of attendance they need or what kind of attendance they're likely to get. I really don't know, but we'll see. It seems like a lot of Pitt fans are anxious. A lot of Pitt fans are excited to go. We'll see how many show up. Let's see. Will Z says, Mark Richt brought up a great point. Pitt fans need to show up in Charlotte. The team did its job going 10-2. They'll probably be favored against Wake Forest. Pitt needs to bring a huge following. I feel like there were a lot of Pitt fans down there 3 years ago. There was more orange in the stadium than blue, but I feel like there was there were a lot of Pitt fans there. A lot of blue in the stands. There wasn't a lot to cheer for, when the first play goes for 75 yards the other way, but, I think they did a good job, and that was with a team. It was different then because they were 7-5 and they were struggling, and they had lost a couple games in a row or they had lost the season finale going into that Clemson game, and you just didn't really think they had much of a chance. They ran the ball so well that season, but they weren't going to be able to pull that off against Clemson. They weren't going to be able to stop Clemson's offense. It was unlikely. I don't think you felt great about Pitt's chances in that game. This year, they're legitimately the best team in the conference, right? If you were doing power rankings right now, 1 through 14, who do you put at number 1? I'm putting Pitt, and Pitt should be expected to win. Pitt should be the favorite against Wake Forest. And I think that probably will motivate more Pitt fans to go as well. I think more Pitt fans will go because there's a greater likelihood of victory. This is a team that I think Pitt fans are excited about and should be excited about, and should be excited to get another chance to go watch in person before the bowl game. This is the biggest game in how long for Pitt? And the probability that they should win, or the fact that they should win, and the probability of a win, I think makes this game even bigger than the 2018 ACC championship game, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I think Pitt should be able to draw a good crowd. I don't know if they're going to sell it out, but they should be able to draw a good crowd. Biz says, we've not been down this road in my lifetime. We're 10-2. This is uncharted territory. The last time I watched Pitt play Wake Forest, they destroyed them. They did destroy them. That was the game where they clinched the Coastal 3 years ago. What's funny about that is they were losing at halftime. It was like 10-6 or something like that. Pitt was losing to Wake Forest at halftime. And, ended up just trouncing them in the second half. One of Kenny Pickett's better games that season, actually. And they need that kind of game on Saturday, next Saturday. Not the first half. They need to be like that second half. Kurt 46 says, honestly glad we're not playing Clemson or NC State, but Wake's RPO is worrisome. They hold it a long time in the running back's belly. It spells trouble for us. Yeah, it does. And look, as we break down this matchup throughout the week, and as you read different things about Wake Forest and, just different things I've read throughout the season, and I think as you read articles about Wake Forest this week, you hear analysis and read all those things, you're going to hear talk about mesh points a lot. That mesh point is that point where the quarterback puts the ball in the running back's belly, right? Just like Kurt said. And they have one of the longest, slowest mesh points in college football. I think Pete Thamel wrote an article about it a couple weeks ago. And it's great how it breaks it down where, Sam Hartman gets the snap, puts the ball in the running back's belly, and holds it there for a long time until those linebackers commit. and maybe the rest of the defense too. But for Pitt in particular, once those linebackers commit to the run, he's pulling the ball and throwing it over their heads. And that's what good quarterbacks, particularly ones who run this kind of defense or run this kind of offense, have done against Pitt this season and in previous years. And it's going to be a huge challenge. It's going to be a huge, huge challenge to defend this offense. This game should very much be, or very much projects to be a real shootout. And that can be fun if your team wins, right? Mikey B says, Jordan Addison is probably the front runner for the Biletnikoff. Kenny Pickett should win the Maxwell and O'Brien Award and move up in the Heisman to get a seat at New York City. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young played poorly today. Yeah, I mean, I still don't know if... I still don't know if Kenny Pickett's going to win the Heisman, but I mean, I don't know how you keep him out. I don't know how you keep him out of New York City. You know what I mean? I think he has to get an invite. When you're a Maxwell Award finalist and you're a Davey O'Brien finalist and a Unitas Award finalist, I don't know how you don't get an invite. You know, maybe you don't win, but I got to think you get an invite. And I got to think he wins at least one of the 3 awards he's already been named a finalist for. I think Jordan Addison should win the Biletnikoff. Otherwise, you know, beyond that, who knows? Question. Oh, David Allen says, how do the game results today impact who we will play in the Peach Bowl if we win the ACC championship? Perhaps we get Michigan. Yeah, it's possible. It's a possibility. So, here's the thing, though. The results today don't impact that. All right, Michigan beating Ohio State. Michigan's going to move into the top 4 next week, right? I mean, they'll move into the top 4, replace Ohio State. I don't think the rest of the top 3, Alabama won. So they'll hold on in the top 4. Cincinnati's going to stay in the top 4. Georgia's going to stay in the top 4. So really, it's going to be Michigan replacing Ohio State. What could have the impact is if Iowa beats Michigan next week in the Big Ten championship game. If that happens and Michigan falls out of the top 4 and Ohio State doesn't climb back in, all right, and you get 2 Big Ten teams in the top 10 but not in the playoffs, then you got a real shot, particularly if Cincinnati makes the playoffs. I think you got a real shot of getting one of those Big Ten teams in the Peach Bowl. Because the highest-ranked Big Ten team is going to go to the Rose Bowl. That's always going to be the case unless they make the playoffs. And then the next highest-ranked Big Ten team is going to go to the Rose Bowl or the Big Ten champion. I forget how that works. If they're, I'm guessing the committee would finish with, I guess they would end up ranking, right? Because the Rose Bowl has to get the Big Ten champ, right? So if Iowa wins, are they going to move Iowa up from, where are they, 16? Are they going to move them up ahead of both Ohio State and Michigan? I wouldn't think so. So Iowa, but the Big Ten champ should go to the Rose Bowl. So if Iowa wins, they would go to the Rose Bowl, and then, you possibly could get Ohio State or Michigan in the Peach Bowl, which would certainly, that would be interesting, right? I think you would take that. It'd be entertaining to see, a Big Ten team that really don't see very often. Let's see here. Biz jumped in again as a super chatter. We appreciate you, man. He says, all Pitt fans need to go to the championship game, period. We need to make this happen. Make the drive. Yeah, that would be great. It'd be great to see a lot of people show up. Connor Horgan, also a super chatter, says, book Charlotte. Yeah, get him down there. That's be fun to see the place filled with blue, right? All right, let's see where we left off with some of the other comments and questions here. Trying to remember where we were. Oh, there we go. Talking about the Peach Bowl. Okay. Let's see here. Kyle Peterson says Sean Tucker with just 47 total yards. The defense just shut him down. Yeah, I really felt like coming into this game, this is the kind of offense that Pitt should be able to play well against, a run-heavy offense, which, as we talk about a potential matchup with Michigan, you look at what Michigan did against Ohio State today. Hassan Haskins ran wild in that game, right? What he end up with? Yeah, 169 yards on 28 carries, 5 touchdowns or something like that. Michigan ran for 297 yards. I mean, Pat Narduzzi would take that kind of matchup all day, and he would probably extra love to stick it to Michigan if that opportunity presented itself. Now, he's a Pitt guy through and through now, but hating a rival the way Michigan State hates Michigan, I don't think you ever totally lose that. So it's I think he would invite that game, and I think the matchup against that kind of offense would be pretty appealing as well. It should be, at least. John Christovich says we will play Notre Dame in the Peach Bowl. That's highly likely. I think if Cincinnati doesn't make the playoffs, there's a really good chance of Pitt getting Notre Dame. Almost a guarantee, I would say. But then again, if Cincinnati doesn't make the playoffs and Iowa wins the Big Ten championship, Notre Dame could find itself in the playoffs themselves. And then they won't play Notre Dame in the Peach Bowl. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different things that can happen or have to happen or should happen or might happen, that'll affect all of that. Let's see here. Unknown Legend 57, Pickett versus Hartman score predictions. I predict a lot. I predict a lot of points. Mikey B says, how likely is it that all the injured guys are back next week? I don't think, I mean, Taysir Mack, Jalen Barden, Jake Cradle, no. Probably not Melky Stovall. Keyshawn Camp obviously played today. Gabe Hoy played today. Izzy Abanikanda is one we're going to have to keep an eye on. Yeah, I don't know. But other than that, I mean, I think everyone else is pretty much in the clear, at least as far as guys who played today. Yeah, Kurt46 says Peach Bowl reps were at the Michigan game today. Yeah, that's right. They were at Michigan, Ohio State. They were actually at the Pitt Clemson game earlier this season, and Peach Bowl reps will be at the ACC title game because the ACC champ is almost guaranteed to go to the Peach Bowl. I think it's not 100%, but it's highly, highly likely that that's what will happen. So they're going to be at the ACC championship game next Saturday. And I think whoever wins that game is probably going to be playing in Atlanta. Royce Beacom says, what are the chances that Keyshawn Camp will be able to play the full game next week? I mean, he played a lot today. He finished the game. Any stats? No stats. Yeah, I know he got hurt and came out, but I feel like I saw him back in a little bit later in the game. So, I think he's probably going to be healthy enough to play. Patrick DeSantis, the refs were terrible in the Miami game, not so much against Western Michigan. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's bad officiating in all football games at all levels. You're just always going to run into it. You just need to make sure you make enough plays that this, that it doesn't, doom you. Let's see here. Mark Cerny says, Chris, how do you think this type of season will do for Pitt's recruiting going forward? I'm going to do probably going to do a breakdown on this week, just because I've been thinking a lot about it. This current class of 2022, this recruiting class, the guys who are current seniors, they'll join the team next year. There's 12 committed right now. I don't see them adding too much more to this. They'll probably get a couple more guys. I doubt that they end up with more than 15. I think they'll have less than 15 or less, and then maybe a transfer or two, but they're just not going to have a ton of guys. I don't think they're going to have a ton of space, and I don't think they know right now exactly how much space they're going to have to fill. The class to really watch in terms of impact from this season is that next recruiting class, that 2023 recruiting class, the guys who are currently juniors. Locally, that's Rodney Gallagher and Tamir Robinson, and a lot of guys sort of throughout the state and throughout the region that Pitt recruits who are in that class who seem to like Pitt a lot. And Pitt is in pretty good shape with. And that's the class that this season will have the biggest impact on. I always said, we were just talking about this on the message boards this week. 2009, Pitt goes 10-3. The following February, they signed the class of 2010. That class was okay. But what really that 2009 season did, where they went 10-3, it got them in really good position with the kids in the next class, the class of 2011, right? Now, ultimately, Dave Wanstead gets fired, Mike Haywood gets fired. All those kids ended up going somewhere else. But at the time, in June, July, August, as they were racking up commitments, they were building what looked on paper like a really good class, highly rated, lots of really good offer sheets. It was a really impressive recruiting class that Dave Wanstead was building. And it was on the strength of that 2009 season. And you can even look more recently in 2018 when Pitt won the Coastal and went to the ACC title game. As much as Pitt fans want to sort of bash that or take something away from it, the fact is this staff was able to recruit on it. They were able to recruit on saying to kids, look, we just went to the conference championship game to play against the eventual national champion. I think did Clemson win it in 2018? Or we went to the conference championship game. We were at that level. We were one step away, is how they were able to sell it. And it resonated. And somebody pointed out on the message board, like, well, great, this is happening now. This next class that you're talking about isn't going to sign for 12 months. And you're right about that. It's a long time away when those juniors will finally sign their letters of intent. But recruiting doesn't only happen in December, right? Because we're 13 months away from National Letter of Intent signing day next year. But we're only about 2 or 3 months away from junior days when they can get kids on campus. And we're only 4 or 5 months away from spring camp when they can get kids on campus for visits. And we're only about 6 or 7 months away from June official visits when they can get kids to come in and visit and potentially commit. And we've seen what they do on these official visit weekends in June. They clean up. They get a lot of commitments. And that's only 6 or 7 months away. And at that point, this season, right now, what's happening right now, this 10-2 season, this ACC Coastal Championship, potential ACC title, potential New Year's Six Bowl, all these things will still be pretty fresh in kids' minds. Will still be pretty fresh. It's the most recent season that'll have happened. And that's when you recruit on it. That's how you recruit on it. And that's where you really get the impact of the season. And so, yeah, I think it's gonna help. You know what I mean? I think that next class, that 2023 recruiting class, should be a really good one for Pitt. And if it is, there'll be a lot of factors that go into it, of course, but this season will be a big one. Let's see here. Ted Reckes says, special season, Pat Narduzzi gets a lot of credit for having the team prepared down the stretch. Yeah, he does. I think he gets credit for having the team prepared, but I think he gets credit for having this team just keep fighting and keep battling. The Carolina game, they had to fight for 60 minutes plus, right? The Virginia game, they had to fight for 60 minutes plus, or not plus, but for 60 minutes. This Syracuse game, it took a little while to get going, but they eventually, pulled away. The Clemson game, they had to fight for 60 minutes. I think this team is very resilient. I think they keep battling, and I think they, I think they do a good job at sticking with it in a game. Even when things aren't going their way, they do a good job at continuing to fight. And I think that's a big credit to Narduzzi. Let's see here. Biz asked, are you drinking a Rolling Rock? I'm not, Biz. I'm not drinking a Rolling Rock. This is actually Aurochs over in Emsworth, the local gluten-free brewery. This is their Christmas ale. This is really hard to find, actually. The last time I looked, I couldn't even find it on their website. I had to go to a beer distributor, but it's good. It's a really good Christmas ale. It's the first gluten-free Christmas ale I've had, and it's quite tasty. So it's a very festive can. You like that? I feel like I can hear jingle bells when I look at that thing. Now let's see what else here. Tito Panther. I'm bringing a couple extra Grover Clevelands with me to party Friday night. I would love $1,000 bar tab. Where do you guys want to party in Charlotte? Let's see here. I don't know, man. Tito Panther, I'm sure you'll find somewhere good to hang out in Charlotte. Let's see. Josh Newark, Peak, lay off the beer. Iowa winning? Iowa with that quarterback? Yeah, I know, but I mean, look, that would give Pitt the best chance of getting a Big Ten team in the Peach Bowl. All right, is if Iowa can pull it off in the Big Ten championship game. It's probably unlikely, but if it was up to you, would you rather see Pitt face, like a Michigan? Well, I mean, there's a big difference between Michigan and Ohio State, but would you rather see Pitt face one of those teams or somebody from the SEC, like an Ole Miss or someone like that? Looking around the scores this week, just kind of real quickly before we move on, I wrote this. A couple games impact Pitt in the rankings. Pitt was 17 in the college football playoff rankings this week. Number 14 Wisconsin lost at Minnesota. They should fall. Number 15 Texas A&M lost at LSU. They should fall. So that's 2 spots Pitt should be able to jump up to 15. And then it'd be really interesting to see what happens with Iowa. They won at Nebraska by a touchdown. They were losing by 2 scores after 3 quarters. And they ended up coming back, and so they're going to get credit for that. Given the fact that they're playing in the Big Ten title game, I don't think the committee's probably not going to drop them and move Pitt up to 14. But at the very least, Pitt should be able to go up to 15 and jump over Texas A&M and Wisconsin. So now you're talking about a top 15 team heading into the conference championship weekend. So it's a pretty good spot to be in, right? Let's see here. A question, and I'll look it up here for you. The Heisman finalists. Who asked this question? Brock Madonic asked, anyone know when they announce who goes to New York for the Heisman ceremony? December 6th. So the Monday after the conference championship game. So championship game's on the 4th. On the 5th, they will announce the final college football playoff rankings, who made the semis, and they'll announce who got into all the New Year's Six bowls, and then all the other bowl games will start doing their announcements. On the 6th, which is Monday after the conference title games, Heisman voting ballots or Heisman voting deadline, and then the finalists are announced that day. And then the ceremony's on the 11th, which is the following Saturday after the conference championship game. So Monday the 6th is when they'll announce the finalists, and we'll see if Kenny Pickett is able to get in there. All right, let's see what else we got. Any other comments or questions to jump into? Will Z says, something to keep note of. Pitt has played a lot of great quarterbacks in the conference with Van Dyke, Armstrong, and Howell. That's got to help the defense in prep for Hartman, especially since they all ran RPO. Yeah, it's funny. This conference, man, like the quarterbacks in this conference, Kenny Pickett, Brennan Armstrong, Sam Hartman, Sam Howell, Tyler Van Dyke, what's his name, Malik Cunningham. Who am I leaving out? Did I miss anybody? I said Brennan Armstrong, Hartman and Howell, Pickett, Van Dyke has been really good. I mean, some ridiculously good quarterback play in this conference. Gunnar Holmberg was okay at Duke. He's not great. Garrett Schrader's a good runner, but clearly isn't a very good passer. And Pitt was able to get to him quite a bit. Their Delta package was pretty much unstoppable on third down. I don't think Syracuse converted a single third down against Pitt's Delta defensive package. They should make sure they use that every week or every game. They should use that on every third down. That's what I meant to say. But I mean, yeah, and there are some really, really good quarterbacks in this league, and Pitt has faced all of them except for Malik Cunningham. And they're not going to play Louisville this year, so they won't see him. And the only other one they haven't faced is Sam Hartman. Oh, Phil Jakovich. Yeah, can't really forget Phil. Phil's pretty darn good. He's a pretty outstanding player. They didn't get to face him this year. But otherwise, and Devin Leary. God, there's so many good quarterbacks in this conference. Devin Leary, yeah, Brock Madonic just brought him up. Leary is an excellent quarterback too. Man, this league, who has a bad quarterback? I'm trying to think of the teams that don't have a good quarterback. Syracuse. Let's see here. Who else did I just mention? Duke. Holmberg wasn't very good. Oh, Virginia Tech. They stink. But that's about it, right? Syracuse, Duke, Virginia Tech. Does anybody else have a bad? Florida State is a little bit of a mess. But that's only 4 out of 14 teams. where you would say like, oh, their quarterback stinks. Oh, Clemson. Good call. Sean McHugh says Clemson. I don't know what to make of Clemson and DJ. I don't know what's going to happen there. If he's going to round into form, if he's going to be any better than he was this year. But, all right. So, I mean, even then, if it's 9 out of 14 teams in the conference that you would say they have really good quarterbacks, I mean, that's a high percentage. It's a high percentage. Brian Wintermeyer says, define Delta. Sorry about that, Brian. I should have. So, Pitt, and this is what they've done since Pat Narduzzi got to Pitt in 2015. Their third down defensive package has been can you guys can still hear me, right? Brian Wintermeyer says I went mute. Hopefully I didn't mute. No, the Delta package, and yeah, Josh Newark makes a joke about the Delta variant. No, the Delta package is their defensive sub package they've used on third down since Pat Narduzzi got to Pitt. You know, traditionally they're a base 4-3 defense, 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and then 2 safeties and 2 corners. What they've done on third down traditionally, since 2015, they've gone to this Delta defensive package. The Delta is 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and 4 defensive backs. Let's see here. Brian Wintermeyer says he can't hear me. Hopefully everyone else can. If you can hear this, hopefully it's still recording. It looks like I have levels still coming in. No one's saying that they can't, but oh yeah, Josh Newark says the sound is fine. Brian, I hope you can fix it, but you know, if you I hope find it, see if you click the mute button or accidentally turned off the volume on your thing, or maybe connected to Bluetooth or something. But listen, what so yeah, as we were saying about the Delta defensive package, they'll switch to basically it's a 3. This year it's kind of a 3-4. It's 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and 4 defensive backs. So basically they remove a down lineman, usually a defensive tackle, and they bring in an extra linebacker. They play it like a 3-4, and what they do is they blitz a lot out of it. They bring pressure a lot out of it. They get pressure a lot out of it. I was looking at their first like 7 times they use it, just because I stopped charting it after that. The first time they gave up a 9-yard pass on a 3rd and 11. They got 2 sacks in a row on the next 2 third downs where they used the Delta. Incomplete pass on 3rd and 7, 3-yard run on 3rd and 17, 4-yard pass on 3rd and 10, incomplete pass on 3rd and 7. I mean, everything is, it was a trend. And what works about it is kind of like the strength of any 3-4 defense where you're able to disguise where the pressure is coming from. And so when you watch like the sacks that they got tonight against Syracuse, they might have rushed 4, they might have rushed 5, they might have rushed 6, and they'll mix it up. They'll rush 3, 4, 5, 6. They'll drop a defensive lineman. They'll bring these 2 guys or those 2 guys or these guys up the middle or off the edge and delayed blitzes. They do so many different things out of it. And they've used this package in the past, but it's been more of a 3-3-5 in the past, where it's 3 down linemen and 3 linebackers, and then they bring in an extra safety. This is what they often did. And they've used different guys in that role. Sometimes they would even bring in an extra corner instead. But it's been really interesting and effective this year because of having 4 linebackers, you're able to blitz a lot more out of it. And they still would blitz with the extra DB in the last few years. But with the extra linebacker, there's just so many options. So usually they'll use like Cam Bright, Servassier Dennis, Phil Campbell, and John Patrician. That's kind of their main group on in that Delta package, their main group of linebackers. When Bengali Kamara got his sack tonight and forced a fumble that Syracuse recovered, that was out of the Delta package. He was playing in the Delta defensive package. So, it's just it's effective. They use it. It really works well on third downs and in passing situations. They don't like to use it on, against the run. They don't like to use it in obvious run situations. They feel like their 4-man front is more effective against the run. but against the pass, it's pretty good. Not necessarily because of what it adds in coverage, but I think because of how it gets after the quarterback and confuses the quarterback and it sends pressure maybe where he doesn't expect it. So that's what the delta is. Let's see here. Pittsburgh Sports All the Time. Chris says Chris needs to keep wearing that shirt. It seems to be working. It also helps us forget about the basketball team. Yeah, I mean, basketball. We don't have much to say about basketball. Now is not the time or place for that. But what I will say, and you're right, Pittsburgh Sports All the Time, this is a good spot to talk about home field. I've got the Retro Rock on tonight. You can see. It's pretty sweet. Retro Rock. Listen, you guys know about home field, right? Homefieldapparel.com is the website. And you need to go check it out. Because, I mean, again, look at Retro Rock. Tell me, as a fan of a team that is 10-2, tell me you do not want a shirt with this Retro Rock on it, right? A super high quality shirt. It's soft. It's form fitting. It holds really well. It just keeps its shape, and it's got a great design. And the thing is, if you go to homefieldapparel.com right now, and this is not the only Pitt design they have. They have a lot of great Pitt designs. Go to the website and check it out. You're watching this online. Keep this window open and go to homefieldapparel.com right now and look at their Pitt designs, and you'll be like, oh man, I need like 10 of these things. Okay, because you do. And if you order now, from between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, so you got today, well now it's already Sunday because it's after midnight. You have today and tomorrow to do this. You get 20% off their entire site. 20% off. As part of their Black Friday through Cyber Monday weekend sale. 20% off. You don't even need a promo code. Go to homefieldapparel.com. It's just outstanding. And it's 20% off. You can't find a better deal. Buy them as gifts for friends or family or other sports fans. Buy them for yourself. Buy them for everybody. Because it's just that great of a product, and it's a great offer right now. Speaking of great offers, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Sign up right now for an annual subscription with the promo code RIVALS2021, RIVALS 2021, Rivals 2021, one word, no spaces. Sign up right now for an annual subscription with that promo code, and your first year will only cost you $20.21. And I don't even like promoting this deal because it seems too cheap. We're giving great content. We have great product, great content, great articles, great analysis at Panther-Lair.com, and of course message boards where you can talk to other Pitt fans all day, every day. I mean, literally, it's like 12:15 right now. And when we get done with this podcast, done with this live stream, I'm going to go to the message boards and hang out there for a while and talk with other, talk about the game, talk about what happened with Pitt against, Syracuse and everything else going on. All right, let's see what else. Oh, Chris Kramer says, who do we expect to be healthy for next week who is out this week? He mentioned Izzy Abanikanda, Gabe Hoy. Gabe Hoy played. I think, the whole game at guard. I think they had Matt Gonsalves at right tackle and Hoy at right guard, I think, or might have those two flipped. I'd have to go back and double check, see what they listed as the. They might have the starters here. Let's see. Yeah, they list all those guys. They don't list the specific position. But Hoy and Gonsalves both played. Hoy played a lot. Drexel was the guy who didn't play. Owen Drexel, I think traveled, but was a game time decision. They decided to wait and be smart with him. And then obviously Izzy Abanikanda did not make the trip, so they're trying to, I guess, being smart with him. But we'll see. I would think Drexel will be ready. I think Camp will be back in. I think the big question mark will be Izzy Abanikanda and what happens there. I'm not sure anybody else is really up in the air that way. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens over the course of the next week. I'm sure Pat Narduzzi will tell us a lot about it. All right, final question, last couple questions. Brock Madonic says, last question, do you expect Bradley Mann to choose Pitt on December 1st? I don't know. I don't have a good read for Bradley Mann. He's the former Pitt commit who visited last week for the Virginia game. Still looking at Pitt. Vanderbilt's pretty prominent in his recruitment. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't have a good read on that. I guess I would probably, if I had to guess, I would guess no, but I don't have a good read on it. And then Will Z, final question. What do you think of the different offensive line schemes in this game? I kind of like Blake Zabovic at center, he says. I don't know. It's tough to get a read on it because Syracuse, like we said, is really good at getting pressure on the quarterback. They really get after the quarterback, and it's, and so it's tough. So, they gave up. I think they gave up a lot of pressure. It was tough on Kenny Pickett. Syracuse was getting after him and forcing him out of the pocket. And some of that's on the offensive line not playing well. Is that due to the different combinations though, or is that due to, just Syracuse being really good in that regard? Wake Forest is not really good in that regard. Pitt's offensive line, I think particularly if they can get back, either Zabovic back at right guard or Drexel back at center and keep Hoy and Gonsalves on the right side of the line, however they want to figure it out, they should be able to have a lot more success controlling the line of scrimmage against Wake Forest than they did against Syracuse, just based on the matchups, I think. We'll definitely have a lot of time over the next 6 days to break down the matchups in this game. I can't wait to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about this game all week, the ACC championship game, break down from every angle we can find and preview it and every way we can. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. I appreciate everybody who hung out tonight. I appreciate everybody who hung out this season. We're going to do a post-game show after the ACC championship game. Jim Hammett's going to go to Charlotte and cover it for us. We'll be live here when that game ends, just like we were tonight, just like we were last week, and every game except the Carolina game. We're going to be live after it. Even if we don't start until midnight, we're going to do it at midnight because it's the ACC championship game. We got to, right? So, and of course, in between, we'll also have our regular weekly show Wednesday nights at 8:30. Listen, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get a notification when we go live. So you'll always know whenever we start one of these live streams. After a game, we never really know exactly what time we're going to start. Well, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will get a notification that we are going live. So we've got, there's a little button, where is it? Right about there. See it there? If you're watching the video, see that subscribe button? Just click that button. And then you will know whenever we go live. You'll never miss a live stream, whether it's Wednesday night at 8:30 or whether it's after the game. So make sure you do that and you will not miss anything. So make sure you do that. Let's see. Brock Madonic says, Chris, I saw Mann did not attend the Virginia game today. Well, I think Vanderbilt is the school to keep an eye on with Mann. But anyway, we'll find out about that. We'll dig into that more as the week goes on and get closer to his decision dates to whenever he's deciding on December 1st. Oh yeah, as Pittsburgh Sports All the Time points out, you have to hit the little bell to make sure you get the notifications. So that way you'll always know when we go live. But thanks to everybody who hung out tonight. I appreciate it as always. It's been a fun season. It's not over yet. But Pitt is 10-2, 12 games down, 10 wins, 2 more wins for this team to try to achieve. So have a great rest of the weekend, Pitt fans. You earned it. Yeah, it's been quite a season, and there's a lot more fun to be had, I think. So we'll see what this team is capable of a week from now. But enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a great rest of the week. We will talk to you on Wednesday night for the regular Panther-Lair show. In the meantime, stay tuned to Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Have a great weekend, everybody.